welcome to episode 37 of Masters of the Forge. My name's Adam, and with me today is...
Snorre.
Hello. It's been a little bit, I think, since we last recorded.
Yeah.
Snorre and I took a much-deserved, extra week of not doing podcast stuff, except for maybe doing some reading, right?
Yes. As we announced on Facebook, we are currently reading Skitarius, and we will also be doing Tech Priest, and that will be the next couple of shows.
Yep, we're going to have a Mechanicum-filled October or end of September. I haven't bothered looking at the calendar yet. So what have you been up to, Snorre? It seems like you've been kind of busy.
Yeah, preparing for the upcoming Apocalypse game. I finished building my Baneblade as a Baneblade.
And then you decided to celebrate building your Baneblade, didn't you?
Yeah, I decided to also build the Malkador heavy tank that I got in the Renegades package from Forge World, the one with all the cool stuff in it. So the Malkador is a surprisingly simple and boring build because there's like 20 pieces in total, I think. So with that done, it was just, okay, get some base coat on and some wash and, make it look at least tabletop ready-ish. And the Malkador and the Baneblade are now semi-painted. The pictures I posted on Facebook, pretty much everyone has said, oh wow, those are yellow. They're not. They're actually more of an ochre brown kind of color, but for some reason right now they are. So it's just like, it seems the pictures are kind of overexposed or something, making them look really yellow, but they're not supposed to be yellow.
It's kind of like blue sometimes under a camera. Sometimes blue just stands out like crazy. Have you ever noticed that? If you have just a small bit of blue on in a model, in a photograph, sometimes it just really stands out.
Yeah. Well, I guess that one of the things that you really need to pay attention to when you photograph is what kind of lighting are you photographing under, and what kind of lighting settings are you using on your camera, and if possible, either correct light settings in the camera, and maybe color correct it in post-production.
Yeah, I color correct in both the camera and in post-production using a white balance.
Yeah.
To get it, so that's not cheating, folks. Retouching models to remove mistakes. Okay, well, maybe that is cheating.
That is cheating. But
if you're adjusting color to match what your eye actually sees, then that's fine.
Yeah, because you're actually just making sure that everyone else also experienced the model the way you actually painted it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What else did you do, buddy?
So since we're talking about models and painting, I got a first-hand look at my Warhound. It's pretty much done externally, and Ula just brought the weapons back home again after the club night on Sunday, and because they need paint. So it's ready for the Apocalypse in 2 weeks. That's going to be fun.
Excellent, dude.
So it's just the interior detailing that needs to be done, and that's not really something I worry too much about because it's interior detailing. You don't see it unless you start popping off the carapace.
Yeah, Ole's doing a pretty good job on that. It looks cool.
Oh, it's amazing looking. And nice. I also celebrated the whole modeling frenzy thing by buying a second Baneblade because,
my goodness,
I'm not building it as a Baneblade per se. It's going to be a casemate kind of multi-chassis build.
Dude, so many super heavies in your world right now. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. It's like you get one and then you kind of get addicted and you just want to go bigger and bigger.
Nice. That's awesome.
So I played a couple of games on Sunday because, well, when you're at the club, it's kind of stupid to show up and just sit there and hang out. You got to play some games. And I got to play one of the guys that I hardly ever play because he's into big games and he wanted to do a 2,500 point game with his Ultramarines. This is Ula himself, the guy who's painting my Warhound. And we managed to negotiate it down to a 2,000 point list, and we're talking 2,000 points of Ultramarines with a lot of Vanguard veterans because he wanted to try those out. I hate those guys. He was so lucky when it came to close combat, because those Vanguard veterans, when they get in close combat with Plague Marines, toughness 5 with feel no pain doesn't really matter. Those Plague Marines are just going to be wiped off the table. But I was left with one guy in both my squads of 9, so it meant that I was locked in combat and he was free when it was his turn again. So he just tore through everything I had. I think we went to turn 4 and I was tabled.
Wow, that's brutal.
Yeah. My second game on Sunday was a Zo Mortalis test game that I played against one of the other guys, because we're going to do a club campaign, and it's going to be anything from huge games to tiny Zo Mortalis boarding actions. There's going to be multiple planets that we're fighting over, so if you want to make foothold, or if you want to land on a planet and you don't have any forces there already, then congratulations, you're playing Planet Strike. If you're assaulting a tile with a hive city on it, congratulations, you're playing Cities of Death. So we're really trying to play all the different kinds of games on in this campaign. So it's going to be fun, and we decided to try out one of the last kinds of missions that this guy is trying to make for his campaign. And it will be like a small points assault some kind of fortress or something, and to control some artifact or doomsday weapon or something. And it was a 750 point game, and we both played attacker lists because it wasn't really anyone defending. We're both just racing for the objective and trying to hold it. And he played a Eldar Wraith list, and it's not even funny when you play against those high toughness D weapon guys. It's just like, ugh. So that was.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so that was pretty much my weekend and my fortnight of hobbying.
Well done. Thank you. Wow,
all right, I actually had something to talk about. Woo!
You had so much to talk about. And your super heavies for the Apocalypse game are going to be so cool to see.
Yeah, and well, it's going to suck that I can't be there for the first day of... Oh, actually, I guess I can talk about something else, because because of this whole Apocalypse game, we're playing 3 different teams against each other. It's going to be Imperium, it's going to be Chaos, and Tyranids as a third faction. And we decided that if we're going to have a chance at winning this thing, the 3 guys that make up the Chaos team, that's me and 1 Necron player and 1 guy who shows up with pretty much 2/3 of the entire Chaos force, we decided to just have a meeting and figure out what kind of grand strategy we're going to go for, and just have fun, hang out, be social. And we had a fun meeting a couple of days ago, and we decided on the fun strategy and started telling what kind of forces we have so that we can figure out what we're going to do and where to put things. I think the Chaos Force is going to show up with something like 14 or 16 super heavies. Multiple Baneblades, Warhound Titan, Brass Scorpion, and various greater demons probably, and there's going to be so much nasty stuff on the Chaos side.
So many resplendent god machines spoiled by the powers of the ruinous gods. Whatever,
oh yeah,
something.
The ruinous powers are just glorious when it comes to destroying stuff.
You have sullied the Emperor's good works, sir. I approve.
So yeah, boy. Let's we're talking about the Apocalypse game, and I can't be there for the first day because, well, they decided to have inventory count on the first day at work, so I can't be there, but I can at least be there for the mop up on the second day.
Okay, cool.
And hopefully my Warhound is going to be alive still, though I doubt it.
And not like knocked over and smashed to pieces. I'm sure they'll have more respect than that, Snorri.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I've had quite a few couple of weeks myself. I don't know how I did it, but I was able to catalog some hobby time and some game time amidst all the madness of what we've been doing here.
Which
Um,
seems to be mostly hanging out in the pool.
well, hanging out in the pool is definitely something that happens, no matter what. I've been spending a lot of time with family lately, which is nice, as well as I somehow like partially dislocated my knee. I don't know how. Like I think I did it getting out of the car. That's what happens when you're 300 pounds. Well, I'm not 300 pounds, but like close enough for government work. So that was not good, but I think it had a better impact on my hobby time because I can't do anything else. So I got a lot done. I've got the orc bikes, which are part of the murder pack, I think it's called, formation that I'm adding to the dorks for the demonkin list. I had some bikes that I got from the big trade I've been talking about that I did a few months ago. I finally paid it off, so I feel like I'm good to go for painting and modeling the stuff. It was already about a level 1 standard if you use that scale. Little more than level 1, like there were highlights, but I destroyed most of those highlights because
Not
they
to
were
your
kind of
liking.
substandard. Yeah, they were kind of substandard. I did a lot of repainting on the bikes. I also added bits to make them look a little more 3+ armor savvy. And to the regular bikers, I chopped off I think they're called Daka guns, whatever they're called. I chopped off their guns and added a old zap gun bit, like from the artillery. I added a zap gun to each of those and painted them to look like plasma guns because those units are Chaos Space Marine unit, a unit of 3 Chaos Space Marine bikes, 2 of them with plasma guns, and I've got 2 units of those. I think they look pretty good, and the folks I talked to are like, yeah, they look like they've got a little extra armor save. And I personally think it's more like a 3.5+ armor save rather than a 3+, but it's close enough.
Thank God for not using fractions.
Yeah, I think what I did with those guys was I gave them green skin because they're not demons. So I figure that's what I'll use to designate the difference between demons and non-demons. Is the non-demons will have green skin. There won't be many of those. Like the pintle gunners on my rhinos, my lord, and the bikers are going to be the only non-demons in my list. So after that, I started painting the demon prince, the 5 possessed marines, and my 16 cultists. They all are going to have a similar paint scheme as opposed to the rest of the army. So this wave, I'm doing those, and this is my September commitment for the Hobby Progress Challenge and the 1 hour a night challenge. I think I'll probably get them done. Looks pretty likely. They're a lot of fun. The Demon Prince is a big boy with a big old power claw. The Possessed all have demony bits all over them, as well as a bunch of new armor plates and everything. And the Possessed are human skeletons. The story with the cultists is that they're, the blood world that the orcs are on is it that they weren't the first beings to find the world, and there are also humanoids who have fallen in combat on this world. Perhaps corn worshippers who have sought it out in some kind of pilgrimage. So they have been risen by Korn in order to fight again. Nurgle and Tzeentch aren't the only ones who can animate the dead and to fight again. It's not just a trope for them to use.
Yeah, I'm afraid to use the South Park analogy here, but they took their place.
Yeah, I was thinking about making them bloody skeletons where they would just be covered in blood. but I'm kind of liking them as they are with their bone colored skeletons, and I think I might actually leave them that way.
Yeah.
I think they look kind of good, so I'm gonna leave them. Their sluggas that I gave them for handguns look kind of silly,
Well,
but that's all right.
I would say that if you wanted to make them all bloody, then probably zombie bits would look cooler
Mm-hmm.
and just make them look like they've been like recently flayed or something. That kind of
Mm-hmm.
bloody. But skeletons, no, they probably don't have any reason to be too bloody, except for blood spray from their recent victims.
Yeah. Aside from starting to read Scutarius, I have had some games. I had a game with James at the club. James brought some Blood Angels, and I brought my Demonkin. I'm pretty sure that the fact that my Demonkin were mostly unpainted had something to do with the result of that game.
Let me guess, you lost.
Oh yeah, I got my butt kicked, and I couple things. Like one thing I just did wrong. I really pushed. I put my Lord in with some flesh hounds, which I kind of overestimated their resiliency against an Imperial Knight and the rest of his gun line. Even if you do give it feel no pain, the double battle cannon shot is pretty nasty, and he ended up wiping out my unit with the Vindicator and the Imperial Knight, and then just easily cleaning up with his Sanguinary Guard, and that was really a big step behind for me. I was able to fight through the rest of the game and try to push it to almost a standstill. I came on with my Helldrake not until turn 4, which was rough. But like I said, I was still able to kind of keep it even a little bit, kind of blocking him off from the objectives, feeding him units, sacrificing units here or there. So the Helldrake comes on, and he's about to put a perfectly shaped teardrop over a perfectly shaped unit of scouts, which were in my backfield, who had just disembarked from a Storm Raven and destroyed a unit of demons. He intercepted it with the autocannon on top of the Imperial Knight. He managed to penetrate my flyer. Then he rolled an immobilized result. He rolled a 6, and then I rolled a 2 on the grounding check. And my Helldrake never saw the table.
Ouch.
He crashed and burned right there. The Helldrake didn't even have the good decency to scatter onto the scouts when he crashed either. He just blew up and died. That game was awful.
Oh, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah, no, that was really bad. What made it worse was the fact that I don't have foam for my dorks, so a bunch of them got broken and stuff on the way there and on the way back, and I had to do a bunch of repairs. So I'm just not. I need time. I need to paint them, and I need to get foam for them. I really want to get some KR multi-case for them, but there doesn't seem to be any option for a Helldrake, and the pluck is so bad. Like, their pluck is terrible. Like, you have to cut it and stuff. Like, they have compartments, which I guess is meant to make it more structurally sound, but they only have small sized compartments for the pluck without. So I don't know. For my demon orcs, I'm probably gonna have to get battle foam just because I don't want to deal with. I don't even want to deal with good pluck, let alone crappy pluck, which is unfortunate. But what can I do? I'll probably use KR for my Necrons and stuff, but I'm gonna have to use battle foam for my demons. There's no question about it. What else? Oh, I also had a game with a new guy at the club named Matt. He has been playing at some of the other clubs in the area, and he hasn't really had a great experience with them. But he came and had a game with me, and he had a wonderful time. Hanging out with us and talking and playing. He seems like a cool dude, and I hopefully he'll be back. But since we play on Monday nights, that's a little hard for some people. But we found that if we try to switch to another night, other people can't come, so it's a little difficult to switch. But that was a pretty good game. I just brought my regular orcs. He brought his dark angels, and we had a game. Yeah. So I've been working on the Council of Five Nations qualifier. It is a qualifier now. So this September 19th on a Saturday, we're having a qualifier for the Council of Five Nations. So come up to Flipside Gaming, and the winner of that will get a free con badge to the Council of Five Nations event, which is coming up in October. I've also been working on Killzone, trying to get some of the playtest notes into the document, and hopefully getting a good beta version of Killzone up for people to use and for us to use in future episodes.
So,
but I think that's almost it. I want to thank a couple of podcasts. Of course, inevitably the subject of much interest right now is what podcasts are you going to listen to now that the Independent Characters, the 11th Company, and Screaming Heretic are on kind of a hiatus. A few podcasts have mentioned the Masters of the Forge as one of those podcasts, and we greatly appreciate that. The Forge Narrative guys have mentioned it, and the fellas over at Veterans of the Long War have given us a great shout out as well, and we want to thank those guys. We really appreciate the exposure, because we put a lot of work into this, and we hope that the quality level is there for you guys. If you want to hear anything from us, if you want to hear a topic, feel free to message us. We've gotten a few messages recently with some ideas. We really appreciate that. And this is almost as much your show as it is ours, so keep those ideas coming, and we'll be sure to be using them in the future. Well, I guess with that, we'll hear some messages from Wendy, and then move on to our main topic, joining the greater good.
Yay!
Transmission incoming from the Adeptus Terra podcast. A new monthly UK-based 40K podcast has come into the universe, based around the hobby as a whole and the rich background of the 41st millennium. If you're looking for a fun, chilled-out podcast focusing on the fluff of the 41st millennium, with tricks and tips on taking part in the hobby, then why not give us a listen? You can find us on iTunes and Facebook as the Adeptus Terra podcast. You never know, you might just like it. Message ends.
Hey, Masters of the Forge listeners, are you looking to expand your Warhammer 40,000 gaming group?
Do you want to start a 40K club in your area?
Do you want the people you attract to be like-minded mofos?
Do you want to advertise your YouTube channel?
Or even attract more subscribers to your hobby blog or online community?
Then what better way than to advertise on the Masters of the Forge podcast?
All we ask of you is that you email us at mastersoftheforge@gmail.com or message us on Facebook with a full text of your advertisement, including the region in which you live and any contact information people can use to get a hold of you.
We will have one of our many tech servitors read your advertisement on the air. We promise not to make fun of you.
Though we can't always predict the actions of our servitors, you really can't find good help these days.
No, you can't.
And the topic, as we mentioned just now, is about the Tau and, well, not really the Tau, but their allies. The Tau Empire is a rapidly expanding spacefaring society which is beset on all sides with enemies including the Tyranids, orcs, and humanity. The Tau race itself is young, having been discovered as a Stone Age society only 5,000 years ago. However, it enjoys growth and prosperity thanks to its leaders, the Ethereals, who seem to have a preternatural ability to wage peace between warring factions.
Yeah, the insidious diplomatic agility of the Tau really has served them well. So instead of rampaging through the galaxy, wasting resources by slaughtering their enemies and raising the infrastructure behind them, the Tau choose not only to annex these alien worlds, but also coax their populations into adopting the Tau philosophy and accept Tau rule. Many species have bowed to the greater good and have been welcomed into the Empire.
Though that is not to say that the Tau do not wage war on alien species, but they are rarely genocidal in their actions. Tyranids and orcs, of course, are the exceptions here.
Yeah, they'll genocide all over their faces.
Oh yes. So after only a handful of years by human reckoning, the Tau have either settled, conquered, or coerced over 100 systems in the region of space, which lies on the far eastern side of the galaxy, on the fringes of Ultima Segmentum and Ultramar. Regardless of their methodologies, in the end, the victorious Tau are sure to present a narrative which paints them as altruistic and benevolent, having had their hands forced into military conflict.
Yeah, I mean, whether that's true or not, that is the message that is portrayed at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, and if you read through the different versions of the Tau Codex and also the Farsight Enclave Codex, you realize that even within the Tau Empire, Farsight, he's not really buying into some of the bull.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny how, I mean, yes, the Tau do try to use diplomacy whenever they can. It's a lot less of a drain on resources, but if it seems pointless or if it seems like a race just is too backward to understand, they'll help them understand with the liberal application of brute force.
Yeah, and if brute force doesn't quite work, then they just brute force even harder, as with the orcs.
Yes. So I guess the first
and most obvious
non-Tau, yes, we'll talk about are the Guevesa. Now we already have an entire episode devoted to the Guevesa. That was way back in episode 6. When we had when your species has a reputation throughout the galaxy for being xenophobic and genocidal interlopers, it's got to be very refreshing to find an ally among the cold wastelands of the Outer Spiral Arm. So the Tau have much to offer any discarded or overtaxed worlds of the Imperium, not the least of which are trade, security, and a modicum of self-determination. It's almost some people want to welcome the Romans with open arms because thank you for the roads,
Yeah. But although many human habitations find themselves trapped in a struggle between the Tau and the forces of the Imperium, they often do choose to face the risks. When their security is endangered by the Imperium and other threats, they take up arms alongside the Tau, because the alternative would be far worse.
Yep. Boy, I love the whole idea of the Guevesa. I think it's definitely in keeping with kind of not only the Tau way of thinking and the kind of expands on the Tau background, but it also really says something about the Imperium when it's so easy to turn these colonies to the greater good.
Yeah, and it's also a nice alternative to the whole going renegade, because normally when you talk about renegades, you're talking about chaos. But if you don't want to do chaos renegades, then you do have these as an alternative.
Another great thing about the Guevesa is they're really easy to count as. Get some pieces, some Tau bits, get some Imperial Guard bits, and, they can live in holy matrimony.
Yep.
So that's it for the Guevesa. Let's move on to the Vespid. The Vespid are a proper Tau ally. The word Vespid is Latin for wasp, and the Tau name for them is Malcor, which is believed to roughly translate to flying insect. Although they are kind of insectoid in nature and appearance, they do have strong similarities to some reptiles as well. So they boast thick, chitinous armor. They have 6 eyes in their head, a pair of which is able to perceive the ultraviolet spectrum, and another pair the infrared spectrum. Their wings are webbed and dragon-like, but they flap rapidly to create a buzzing noise, which resonates with the crystals used in Vespid technology. So without their wings, their technology would not operate. They have very complex mouths, and it's possible their buzzing and body language could also be part of their language. Their perceptions of the world and difficulty communicating with others are so alien that the Vespid often fail to recognize other species as sentient beings, which is what happened with the Tau when they first met with them. Although they are bipedal and boast a generally humanoid shape, the Vespid truly are a unique and interesting alien species.
Yeah, I really like the look of them because it's alien.
Yeah, it's not just, oh, these are bug people. That's not entirely the case.
Yeah, it's not quite the Star Trek version of alien species where everyone pretty much looks like humans, only slightly not human. Like, oh, this guy's a human, only he's blue.
Yeah.
But in order to help the whole communication with the Vespid, a translation device, also known as a communion helm, is fitted over the Vespid's head and is necessary for communication with other species. Generally, only Vespid commanders, called strain leaders, are supplied with these devices by the Earthcast of the Tau. Some in the Ordo Xenos have postulated that these are not only mere communication devices, but also make the Vespid strain leader more open to the whole sort of mind control that they feel the greater good is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether due to malevolence or simply agreement, the Vespid's belief in the greater good has afforded them a special place beside the Tau in their struggles, both societal and military. Now, the whole Communion Helm, if you look at the old, I think it was 4th edition codex, it's described as the Tau meeting the Vespids. They couldn't really communicate. There were mistakes in translation, and Tau tried to say something, and the Vespids took offense because it had multiple meanings or something like that. So it really became difficult, and then the Tau just goes back to the Earthcast, like, yeah, we need a solution to this. Can you build something? And the Earthcast comes up with this helmet, and it's like the high leader of all the Vespid puts this helmet on and instantly, more or less instantly, converts to the greater good. Which, yes, there's quite a heavy hinting of mind control here. Not sure if it's actually mind control, but it could just be that, the Vespids and the Tau actually agree. But when you go into the whole how the ethereals operate, when you start reading the Farsight Codex, it's... yeah, he doesn't really trust ethereals because he feels they are just there's something wrong with them in just how manipulative they are and such. So more, not quite proof, but more hints towards the whole mind control theory.
Yeah, it seems like the Tau do have some variety of mind control. Probably not, like in this case, it does seem to be technological in nature, but overall, it does just seem as if the ethereals have this an amazing way of making people convinced that the greater good is the right way to go, and it's never really proven in the fluff, but strongly hinted at.
Yep.
So the Vespid homeworld, unsurprisingly, is a very unique and alien place. They're a rare breed of sentient species which evolved in the atmosphere of a gas giant, of all things. The gas giant has many floating rock formations, which are full of gas lighter than the air surrounding them. allowing these islands to float about and support life. The lower, narrower levels of these islands are where the exotic crystals grow. And these crystals are mined by the females of the species due to their more robust physiology. They're used in nearly all of Vespid technology.
Yeah, the gun that the Vespid use is basically just a channeling device with the crystal in front of it, and supposedly the vibrations of the wings make the crystal do stuff, and it's like a tuning fork, the whole gun, and it just shoots something out one end. So it's a really weird thing going on there, and it's quite possible, as we talked about earlier, that all their technology, which is not hinted at as far as I can tell anywhere, could be very simple, could be really high tech, we don't know, but they would probably use these crystals a lot in all kinds of things if they can manipulate it using their wings.
That's right, and it also has the double effect of making sure other people can't use it against them, which is interesting.
Yeah. Although the Vespid did not possess spacefaring technology when the Tau encountered them, today they bring their loyalty, maneuverability, and deadly crystal-based weaponry to the table in the Tau Firecast. The story of the Vespid, in a way, demonstrates the importance of including all races in the expansion of the greater good, rather than cherry-picking one race over another due to perceived initial strengths or the inherent difficulties the Tau would experience when absorbing the race into the fold.
This comes up a lot with these races. Is the Tau seem to put a great deal of effort into absorbing each race. They're very different from the Imperium in that they don't give up on a society so readily. It's happened very rarely. The orcs, obviously, being an exception. Every single species, they go through a great deal of trouble to make sure that they either bend the knee or bend their will to the greater good. And I think that's not only a practical decision in that they need these worlds, but it takes the Tau a little bit longer to travel to these worlds too, so they don't want to waste that effort. But I think it also has something to do with the flawlessness or the perceived flawlessness of their philosophy, in that they don't want the Tau Empire, the member nations, or the Tau themselves to in any way doubt the message of the greater good. And if a species cannot be turned to the greater good, then that would be a sully mark on the philosophy itself.
I guess the Tau actually just, when it comes to the orcs, they're not really considered to be an intelligent species or anything useful. So they're sort of like they're just animals or something. So that means that the greater good doesn't really apply to them anymore. We don't need to worry about that. So sort of an excuse to not apply it to the orcs.
Right. Same thing with the Tyranids. They're animals, right? According to the Tau, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, well, the Tyranids are animals compared to orcs, because orcs are humanoids and they are sort of intelligent.
I doubt very highly the Tau leadership expounds upon the concept of a Tyranid hive mind. Hell, they may not even understand themselves that there is a hive mind in play. So on your tabletop, the Vespid do enjoy one unit entry in the Tau Codex, and these are the Vespid Stingwings. They're a very specialized species, so it's not a surprise that they don't really serve in any other capacity. The Stingwings have interesting stats, which are very unique to them. All of their stats are like a regular human, except their toughness, which is a 4, and initiative, which is 6, and their leadership is only 6. They come with standard combat armor, giving them a 4+ save, so they actually have Tau manufactured armor that they use. They're all jump infantry because of their wings, And they have fleet, hit and run, move through cover, and they also get stealth and ruins, which is really interesting. You get 4 of these for 72 points, and you can add more at 18 points each.
You can greatly increase the morale checks on these units by making one of the models a strain leader, or that effectively makes him a sergeant. This increases the leadership to 9, and he also gets the extra attack. They are. Yeah. This is the part where I really find the Vespid as a complete miss, because they are not great in melee. So they're assault marines, only they can't assault. And they don't have the jetpack, so they can't do the jump, shoot, jump, which is what they would be perfect for.
Right, they just jump in front of you, blast you with strength 5 AP3 shots, and, well, hopefully they live.
Exactly.
You know?
And since the weapon has only an 18-inch range, it's like you're pretty much guaranteed that 6 inches and 12 inches for assault. Yeah, if you have something with a decent range on it, those guys are dead, period.
Right.
So they're really, it's like a flimsy unit, and yeah, I don't like them.
It seems like a very poor use of the Vespid as well.
Yeah.
If I were the Tau, I would give these guys some close combat weapons to go with their guns. They're super fast.
If they
with that initiative for 6, that's amazing. Like if they're that fast in combat, I would definitely supply them with some kind of weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they do have hit and run. That allows them to kind of bounce out of combat and stuff, but I really think it's a misstep by the Tau for not supplying these guys with a nice close combat weapon of some kind.
Yeah.
So I guess you could add a commander with like a command and control node and a multi-sensor spectrum street to make them even better, but you're just adding points onto it, and I'm not sure that that's a very fluffy way to play the unit.
No, not really. At least in my head, not really.
Right. So when building your own force, nothing should stop you from expanding the influence of the Vespid throughout your army. Perhaps one of your detachments is comprised entirely of Vespid who have suffered serious injuries to their wings, thereby relegating them to Fire Warrior role. Although there doesn't seem to be anything in the lore regarding Fire Warriors of other races that I can see, we at Masters of the Forge encourage our listeners to challenge canon whenever it would get in the way of a really cool idea. And, to be perfectly honest, the folks over at Games Workshop also do the same. Do note, however, that most of the time groups of Fire Warriors often come from the same sept, so do please consider kind of making your entire unit out of Vespid rather than mixing and matching.
Yeah, definitely. The Fire Warriors are most definitely an elitist kind of unit. They would not include any other races into the whole teaching, because a Fire Warrior is born a Fire Warrior. They are from birth. So you can't just I guess you can't just adopt a Vespid and just raise it as a Fire Warrior. There's just something wrong about that. So they could never be Fire Warriors per se, but they could always take the role of a Fire Warrior as long as the entire unit is made up of
I wouldn't actually in your fluff call them Fire Warriors, I guess. So in that case, in your fluff for your army, I wouldn't say these are Fire Warrior Vespid. Instead, these are just Vespid foot soldiers.
Yep.
Fighting for the greater good and unable to actually fly around because their wings are messed up or something like that.
And of course, that means that they cannot use the Vespid guns, because the Vespid guns requires wings.
Yes, precisely.
Now, perhaps one of these Vespid Fire Warriors has risen through the ranks to become an influential leader, and it would not be too much of a stretch to make one of your scarred Vespid into a cadre Fireblade. You could even get really crazy and do a big kit bash of one or more Vespid wearing specialized battle suits with wings.
Right. But once again, not technically a cadre Fireblade, just a commander leading other Vespid into combat.
Yep.
You can even stretch the background even further by modifying or scratch building a Vespid Ethereal. Of course, this would be unheard of from a canonical perspective, but perhaps you could develop a different unit type which simply has rules in the game which duplicate that of an Ethereal. And of course, again, only when it applies to your other Vespid units.
Yeah, because the Vespid do have like a supreme ruler, and I guess that this person would, or this Vespid would have a similar influence on the other Vespid, or similar kind of, they revere him as their supreme leader and everything. And in many ways, that is what the Ethereal is, minus the supposed pheromone mind control thing. But, it doesn't mean it has to be exactly like an Ethereal, but similar. We can just tweak out the things that you don't like from the Ethereal and just maybe replace them with something that feels more Vespidy.
That's right. Maybe their wings hum at a certain frequency that causes the Vespid to kind of acquiesce to their needs, or some weird thing like that.
Maybe.
I think bees do that too, don't they? I don't know.
I do not know at all.
Yeah, I don't know. So, nothing should stop you from creating a more Vespid-centric, portion of your Tau army if you think they're cool. You can kind of do all of that with counts as models and just enjoy the hobby aspect of the Vespid. Now, they're very expensive models, so if you do that, I hope you can take a loan out at your bank because you're going to need it.
So with that, I think we can move on to the next race on our list, which is the Golgs.
Yes, the Golgs. It's a cool name.
Yeah. The Golgs are a species that seem to combine the traits of both amphibian and reptile into a toad-like appearance. While the Golgs are encountered mainly as mercenaries, they have an overwhelming hatred for the Imperium.
I can't imagine why.
Yeah.
As with so many other races in the lore of 40k, their background begs some questions. For example, was the Golgs' homeworld destroyed by the Imperium? Are the remains of their society encountered as mercenaries because they wish to see the downfall of mankind? If this is true, why do they sometimes work for humans? Really, you just come up with your own story for these guys.
Chaos.
There's so little out there, right, for them. So just come up with your own ideas.
Oh, I know. These are Alpha Legion.
That could be the answer to every lore question.
You know what? I think I'm going to adopt that.
No. We said toads, not toadies.
Yeah, but maybe it's just. Oh, sorry. Never mind. I have no idea what kind of reference you just made. I'm just going to shut up.
Okay.
But whatever their motivation, the Golgs have mostly aligned themselves with the Tau. Is this a choice based on pure business, or do they believe in the greater good? This is largely unknown, and this makes the Golgs a great species to expand on your own tabletop.
Yeah, I was trying really hard to look for the book that the Golgs appear in. It's the Golgs and the Tyrellians, I think, appear in a book called, or a story by Gav Thorpe, I think called Kill Team. It's I think it's the Last Chancers novel. I'm not sure. But if you look up the Golgs, there's a book reference that I couldn't find. I'm sure that it gives more story and background for these creatures than we have available to us. So on your tabletop, there are several toad-like bipedal miniatures that you could use as Golgs in your army. Probably best to use the less disciplined Kroot rules to run your Golgs. Lizardmen skinks aren't a bad choice, but there are third-party options you could use. Not the least of which are the Croak Raiders by Privateer Press. They're a little more froggy rather than toady, but you could add some scales to them or something. That would be cool.
You could also kitbash some skimmers to create piranha versions or devilfish versions for the Galg. And
Yeah,
since the background information for the Galgs is pretty much non-existent, except for the whatever is present in the Gabthorpe novel Kill Team, the sky is basically the limit for your hobby perspective.
right. If you feel like you want your Gaugs to be a certain way, go for it, because there's no real restrictions out there.
And since we already started talking about the Torellian, I guess we can just do those. In the lore, the Torellians have a distinct grudge against the Imperium because their world was virus-bombed by humanity. I wonder how that happened.
You know what? They get, we just get a little trigger happy sometimes.
Yeah. The Torellians are a reptilian species, and they also work as mercenaries for the Tau. Although their race has not been absorbed by the Tau, the Torellians have no qualms about joining with them to kill humans.
Yeah. No, they want to eat their faces. The Trillians and Tau not only share humanity as a deadly adversary, but also the Tyranids. One of the few remaining Tyrellian settlements was wiped out by Hive Fleet Moloch. The Tyrellians are bitter and deadly fighters, and the Tau pay well and pay on time. This makes them fast and strong allies.
Yep.
So what do you think the Tyrellians could be represented as on the tabletop, Snorri?
I'm thinking the Snake Guards from Tomb Kings would definitely do it. There's probably some third parties too.
Yep. Now, for both the Galags and the Tyrellians, I think you'll want to create like more of a science fiction style equipment for them. Even though that you're gonna see a lot of models from fantasy ranges that you can use, but they're gonna need technological equipment. Anvil Industries, I've seen recently as a great place to go for adding guns and other bits to your models to make them seem more sci-fi in nature. They even have things like bionic parts you can add. Now, there are a lot of other minor races in the Tau Empire, such as the Ranghan, Geatrix, Moralians, and the Haranian. They each have not been fully developed in the 40k lore, and some have fully embraced the greater good, while others are just sellswords for the Tau Empire. Either way, they're ripe for your use, ripe for your plucking and use in your own stories for your own forces.
And we're going to take a break now, but when we come back, we will talk about some of the most compelling Tau species, the Nikasar, the Demiurge, and of course, the Kroot.
Kroot.
Yeah.
But first, these messages from tech servitor Wendy.
Interested in the offbeat world of 40k? Is your bits box full of 20-year-old space elves? Have you ever searched for something out of production 40k on eBay? Well, hold on to your zotes and head over to Corsair Radio. It covers the full scope of the hobby, homebrew rules, fluff, campaigns, oddball models, and more. From Terra to the Eye of Terror, visit us at corsairradio.blogspot.com. That's corsairradio.blogspot.com.
So the Nikasar are flat telekinetic space bears. So just let that sink in a little bit. Flat telekinetic space bears. This alone makes them a compelling species. They're large and ungainly creatures who have adapted to life in space. I don't even think that anyone even knows that whether or not there's currently a Nikasar planet, homeworld.
No, I don't think there is, because as far as I can remember from the old codex, they basically are a spacefaring race which live on these ships that just kind of float through space really slow.
Yeah, their spacecraft called Dows are ponderous sleeper ships, and they originally used them to travel over hundreds of years between stars, sometimes joining with multiple Dows to create flotillas.
And the Nikasar are so slow to act and so deliberate in their decision much like Ents from the Lord of the Rings, that it has been joked that they have been conquered by the Tau before they had realized the Tau even existed. While this is amusing and unlikely, the Nikasar likely don't care one way or the other, as their relationship with the Tau has taken them far and wide and has protected them from the predations of humanity.
Their dhows are fitted with Tau railguns for protection, and they also make use of Tau warp drives to travel far and wide. The insatiable curiosity and wanderlust of the Nikasar makes them optimal for use as scouts and escorts for the Tau fleets. However, they do make terrible ground troops, even with their psychic abilities. Of course, due to these psychic powers, the Tau have kept the Nikasar as secret as they can, especially from the Imperium.
So if we move these guys over to the tabletop, the Nikasar are so different and strange that it would be difficult even to add them as an ally detachment. Of course, one could easily do a detachment of Imperial Guard and simply say a sanctioned psyker is a Nikasar and simply provide a big model for it. But that doesn't really do any kind of justice to the Nikasar.
But, of course, Tyranids are kind of out of the question, unless you wanted to run some Gaunts as Tyrellians, if your opponent wouldn't mind kind of agreeing to suspending the Allies' rules. But we would like to provide some kind of custom rules for running a Nikasar with your army if you so choose. Of course, exposing the Nikasar to any Imperial force would be dangerous for both the Tau Empire and the Nikasar. So any storyline you have should be one that expresses a desperate need on the part of both the Tau and the Nikasar.
The Nikasar would not be able to support itself very well in an environment with gravity, so it would need some kind of a vehicle to sustain it. We imagine that some kind of variation on a devilfish chassis with a transparent canopy, that would be suitable. Some kind of a hover chair.
Yeah, like a big... I mean, the Nikasar are kind of ridiculous to begin with, so you might as well have a ridiculous hover chair for them to float around in. So just in general, in zero gravity, they'd kind of... I see them as like 70 points. They're like this monstrous creature, strength 5, toughness 5, 3 wounds, 2 initiatives, 1 attack, and leadership 9. I would assume they have adamantine will. You start them off as a level 1 psyker with an upgrade to level 2 and level 3 for 25 points each respectively. I don't think you would use it that much. In a support drone, they would be elite, 120 points, unit type vehicle, front armor 13, side armor 12, rear armor 10, and 3 hull points. I think that's in line with most of the Tau vehicles, wouldn't you say, Snorri?
It is very much a devilfish. Actually, it's very much a... I think the armor value 13 in front is more of a hammerhead kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the more expensive, sturdy vehicle. Which, if you're gonna throw your Nikasar into combat, you might as well give him a sturdy vehicle to use to protect him.
And since it's basically a hammerhead chassis, we put a burst cannon in front, 2 drones of any kind, and something we call arc shielding. Special rules would be auto fire, so it shoots at whatever it feels like, as long as it's close. Adamantine will, level 1 psyker, of course. A second special rule that we have for them is telekinetic, and they have a psychic couch, which is also a psychic vehicle.
They can take items from the vehicle battle systems list, like the normal Tau battle systems list. They can upgrade to psyker level 2 for 25 points, and level 3 for 50 points.
So, let's go for the special rules for this thing, and there's quite a few. Arc shielding is the first one. With 1 shield drone attached, the Nikasar has a 5+ invulnerable save. With 2 shield drones attached, the Nikasar has a 4+ invulnerable save. And autofire is that the support drone uses autofire rules for firing its burst cannon and drone weapons.
Yeah, the Nikasar itself does not shoot the guns. The vehicle does that for it. So telekinetic. If the Nicassar chooses all of its powers from the telekinesis discipline, it does not need to roll for them. It automatically knows all of them. Otherwise, it may randomly draw from the telepathy, pyromancy, or biomancy as a normal psyker. A psychic couch. The psyker commands a view of the battlefield thanks to Nicassar equipment installed aboard the support drone. It does not suffer the usual penalties for targeting models outside of a transport. So the Nicassar can actually target units that are not inside the vehicle.
So you can actually psychic attack inside the vehicle.
Yeah, so like normally you're not allowed to do blessings or maledictions outside of the vehicle, outside of a transport. The Nicassar can.
Okay. And the final one was Psychic Vehicle. Instead of suffering normal perils of the warp results, roll a die. On a 1 to 4, the Nicassar takes a whole point of damage. On a 5+, the Nicassar suffers a whole point of damage as well as a roll on the vehicle damage table.
That's it for the Nicassar. If y'all have any other ideas for adding Nicassar to your games, let us know. I think they're very limited in nature. They're so big and so ponderous that I can't imagine them being used in any other way, really. That leads us to another hotly contested topic, which are the demiurge.
Yes, the squats. Well, actually not. The word demiurge is derived from ancient Greek, meaning artisan. The demiurge are an interesting topic for discussion, as they are a short, stocky race of Xenos origin who are excellent at craftsmanship and trade and who really hate orcs. Sounds familiar? Well, unless you've been living under a rock the size of Middle-earth, these are space dwarfs.
Yes, they are. That doesn't mean necessarily that the demiurge are squats. The long gone species of humanoid which were removed from the lore by Games Workshop ages ago. The demiurge and squats could be an example of convergent evolution at work in a massive galaxy which is home to millions of species.
Also, the squats aren't actually gone. They're just very few, and they've been scattered all over the universe. And it's kind of like the story in the first Hobbit movie, where the dwarves are just finding work when they can. So I think that's pretty much where Games Workshop have placed squats at the moment.
And weren't the squats abhumans? I don't think they were Xenos, were they?
Nope, they weren't.
They were abhuman.
Just like
ratlings.
Yeah, ratlings and Ogryn. They're also abhumans.
Where the demiurge are considered a Xenos race. At least, obviously, I guess it doesn't mean that they're not squats, but I really do think that these guys are meant to be a separate Xenos species.
Yeah. Whatever the case, though, the demiurge are most commonly seen plying the stars near Tau space in the galactic east. Sometimes they venture into Ultramar for trade, but that is rare. The demiurge make use of massive trade and mining vessels called the Bastion class and the larger Stronghold class. These ships possess powerful cutting beams for mining and swarms of support craft used to gather ore. These tools are also used to defend the vessels in the event of an attack. They use an impressive buzzard ram scoop technology to maneuver at sublight speeds, which is mightily coveted by the Adeptus Mechanicus.
A buzzard ram scoop is basically, it collects all the atoms in space in a region. It like attracts them and then shoots them out the back of the ship. So it uses that for propulsion. The demiurge ships are awesome. They're enormous. Like the regular Bastion class is about the size of a regular Imperial cruiser, but they look like a giant Star Destroyer from Star Wars almost, and they're just festooned with all these guns and grapples and stuff. And the demiurge just live on this ship, and it just goes around mining and trading and all that. The demiurge are split into family groups or clans known as brotherhoods. So each Bastion class vessel represents one brotherhood, while a Stronghold class can support about 3 brotherhoods at a time. In times of war, usually 2 or 3 Bastions will join with one Stronghold for self-defense. It could be interesting speculation to assume that the brotherhoods of the bastions are represented on a single stronghold. That could explain why they're so tight-knit.
It is unknown whether the Demiurge are true allies of the Tau, or if the Tau are simply paying customers. It seems as if a lot of spacefaring species are very hard for the Tau to pin down, though they do make use of them as allies if they can.
Yeah, there's quite a few quite a few spacefaring species in the galactic east that the Tau are allied with, which don't necessarily bend to the greater good. And I think that that's probably calculated on the Tau's part. They're not conquering worlds, so there's not much. It's kind of difficult, especially since the Tau don't really have great spacefaring technology. They're still kind of slow compared to other races, so I can see where it might be more difficult to pin down the spacefaring species. Of course, the Astra Militarum Codex makes an excellent stand-in for Demiurge troops. The use of engine seers would be very much in keeping with the background of the species. People have also been known to use space wolves as an allied force, focusing on Iron Priests and assuming that the Demiurge would make use of their own special power armor. I know a fella named Troy Esposito who he's been to multiple GTs with his space dwarves and uses the space wolves as his codex. He does really amazing work with his space dwarves. Like, he's actually got these resin drills that come up out of the ground that he uses as drop pods. It's nice. It's really awesome. He has an airship that he uses for the Canar, or whatever the heck it's called, the long ship-looking Space Wolf flyer. It's amazing. He's won best theme, I believe, at both Adepticon and Du Bois GT. I think it helps that he gives away booze, but
nice. And if you don't feel like using all these cool sounding things that this Troy person probably half built himself, you can use Forge Fathers, for example, by Mantic.
Yeah, that's a really nice line.
It is.
It's very in keeping with the flavor of the Space Dwarf theme. They do look, their power armor looks very 4G. I like them, and they're also pretty. They're also fairly inexpensive, to be perfectly honest.
Yep, and I think that rounds out the Demiurge, and it's time to talk about the coolest of the cool, the one Tau ally race that actually works on the table.
Yeah, the Kroot are next, and there's so much information about the Kroot that we had to split it up into two sections.
Yeah. The Kroot are another truly alien species counted among the allies of the Tau. They are a tall, sinewy humanoid race with a somewhat avian feature, featuring beaks, light bones, and spines which may have at one time been feathers. The spines on their heads are tied directly to their brains and are only one of their many advanced sensory organs. Not much gets by a Kroot. No.
And even though they're sinewy and light and they seem frail, they are not frail. They're strong.
No. If you read the book Savage Scars, which is a White Scars novel, it's also the last of the 3 books in the Rogue Trader trilogy. There's Imperial Guard landing on a Tau planet, and they go into an orchard, and people feel that there's something between the trees, and suddenly the Kroot are upon them, and those guys are being torn to pieces simply because the Kroot it's basically like one giant muscle, and it's running around with a rifle with a really sharp knife on the back and a really sharp knife on the front, and they're just hacking away.
Yep. And you actually, I'm looking at that book right now that you let me borrow, and I need to read.
Yeah.
So the Kroot will eat almost any organic matter. What can't be used for specific purposes in their bodies is stored as energy in organs throughout their bodies called nymunes, which are sort of a specialized cross between fat deposits and lymph nodes. A Kroot can excrete the rest from pores on their skin. These excretions are used for a variety of things, including defense, stealth, and communication. Along with these excretions, the Kroot also use clicks and other vocalizations, as well as body language, to communicate.
Of course, the most renowned of Kroot physiology is their ability to ingest and make use of the DNA of other creatures. The Kroot can actually ingest a creature and take on its features the more it eats. For example, if the Kroot desire greater strength, they need only eat on a couple of ogrins. There seems to be no limit to this ability, however. Kroot have been known to ingest Eldar, for example, and afterwards take on psychic abilities in order to confound their foes. Of course, to make certain the work done to carefully hone these abilities in a Kroot must not go to waste. When a Kroot dies, other Kroot devour its body in order to further genetic heritage that has been cultivated.
A lot of effort has gone into developing these evolutions, and if you need to use them, throughout the rest of the campaign, you need to actually devour your ally in order to maintain those mutations. And they're not simply cannibalistic savages, although they seem to work hard at espousing that rumor. At the clan level, or as they call it, the kindred, Kroot Shapers take on the responsibility of deciding which traits should be introduced into the group in order to complete a task at hand. Although they do seem to have some kind of structure installed dictating their own evolution, things have gotten out of hand in the past.
Oh yes, a desire for even more powerful and fast physiologies have resulted in the birth of some Kroot subspecies whose intelligence has been impaired. For a species such as the Kroot, whose actions are generally decided with ruthless and calculated cunning, this has been seen as a bit of a failure. Some of these subspecies are still intelligent and loyal enough to be trained and have been kept on and bred into Kroot society. These species include the Kroothounds and the Norloks and Krootoks. Some subspecies, however, are beyond repair. The Kroot homeworld of Pech is riddled with monstrous mistakes of Kroot experimentation. One species, however, is not a mistake. The Krootok is thought to be the Kroot ancestor, or are thought to share a common ancestor. It is held in high regard by the Kroot who revere and honor the beast.
I don't know how they're used in their rituals, because it's said that they're used in some of their rituals, some of the Shapers and stuff. I guess that's a secret meant to be revealed in the future, or perhaps it's in a novel somewhere that we haven't read. Kroot society seems backward and savage to the outside observer. They do not overburden themselves with armor or other heavy equipment save their firearms. The Kroot are expected to instead adapt to a situation and survive while executing their mission. It is never seen, but it is thought that deep within the mountains of their homeworld, the Kroot build and service their huge spheres, the warp-capable ships they use to move about the galaxy. Who knows what other technology they've got hidden away. But the spheres and their guns and stuff are definitely of Kroot design. There have been modifications made by the Tau, supplied by the Tau, but the Kroot are a self-driven spacefaring species.
When it comes to the guns, yes, the Tau gave them the plasma-like propulsion?
Yeah,
so that
they used to be just slug throwers.
Yeah, so they've become better at shooting, but they still have the design that the Kroot prefer, which is very close combat oriented. Although the Kroot are mainly mercenaries and will act at the behest of the highest bidder, the Kroot have an exclusive contract with the Tau. The galaxy is a massive place, and the Tau have only explored a fraction of it. The Kroot, on the other hand, have worked with multiple races before. Humanity, orcs, if there's payment to be made or, potential genetic material that is beneficial for them, they might go there. Having said that, the Kroot are forbidden from ingesting and to some extent working with a small handful of life forms.
That's right. First and foremost, the Tyranids. That goes without saying. And it's really interesting for a species that ingests other species to gain their abilities. The Tyranids are considered completely inedible, which, think about that. Almost nothing to the Kroot is inedible, and they consider the Tyranids inedible.
Yeah, I think the whole reason for it is that once Tyranid DNA is ingested, they don't control the evolution because the innate ability of Tyranid biomass is to evolve, like crazy evolve.
Right. They actually consider. I guess I don't want to oversimplify things, but in reality, they consider Tyranids to be gross. Like, they consider the way the Tyranids corrupt DNA and turn it to their own to be just unsavory. It's really interesting. Like, it's almost taboo. The Tyranids are almost a taboo subject for the Kroot, which is really a neat thing about their backstory. They also try to avoid humans who worship chaos because of the warp energies, which could corrupt the Kroot who ingest them. Obviously, you can't always be perfect because you can't really usually tell one chaos, a chaos following human and a non-chaos following human until it's late in the game.
Yeah, but I think this is more of a late-stage chaos worship when mutations are starting to manifest.
Right, exactly. Of course, Tau are completely off limits. Yes, the Kroot do kind of renege on their deal to be to have an exclusive contract. They do not, however, renege on the fact that Tau species is off limits for eating, because the Kroot homeworld of Peck and multiple worlds in their domain would have been lost to the Orcs had it not been for the Tau.
Because during the first sphere expansion, the Tau came across Kroot worlds locked in a bitter struggle with the Orcs. The Tau may not have been acting with complete ambivalence, but their cleansing of planet after planet of the Orc threat won them as a major ally in their struggle to bring the greater good to ever more worlds in their part of the galaxy. Of course, the Kroot still require fair payment for their involvement.
Well, duh. No, again, this is the first. I think this is a seminal moment for the Tau. The fact that in this first sphere expansion, they put so much effort into the Kroot. Like, they invested so much into saving this species from the Orcs, and they didn't have to do that. But according to the Tau Greater Good, according to their methodology, this laid the groundwork for how they would interact with species in the future. They're insidious, anyways, the insidious nature of the Greater Good is that it's pernicious. It won't give up. Every single world must bow to the Greater Good, and it's usually sometimes at great loss to the Tau themselves, but they're hoping that in the end there's a greater gain involved. So it should be noted that the Kroot, while marked as cannibals by common imperial prejudices, are not necessarily a malevolent force in the galaxy. Sure, they're cold and calculating hunters, and they can be bought by the highest bidder. However, they're not a rampaging menace. They're not orcs. The Kroot are a socially advanced society with their own unique customs and beliefs, for whom human customs and beliefs must seem equally strange and alien. I think the Kroot are very much a misunderstood species.
Yeah, they ensure their own survival. And because of that, they are seen as weird because, well, their way of ensuring survival is by adapting and eating other species.
It's in their DNA, right?
Yeah.
They're born doing this. It's not like they're they're followers of chaos, munching on the bodies. Not like who was it? It was in our Malal episode. Was it I forgot the name of the other Chaos warband. They aren't like the Sons of Malice, who were censured for overusing their ability to feast on the flesh of sentience in order to learn information about them. It's just an inherent part of their physiology. They're not monsters. They're just another species.
Yep. And I think we talked for long enough about the lore of various species. So
I need to wet my whistle, dude.
yeah, we're going to take a quick break. Wendy's sultry voice is going to calm all our listeners while we relax, and we'll be back and talking about Crute on the Table.
Yes.
Hey everybody, check out Veterans of the Long War, a Warhammer 40k podcast on iTunes and on Facebook. We are a 40k podcast based out of Western Massachusetts with contributors from other parts of New England. We talk hobby, tactics, news, and rumors, check out new releases, and talk about our local and regional 40k scene. We're looking for new contributors, so get in touch if you want to be a part. Check us out on iTunes and Facebook. That's Veterans of the Long War, a Warhammer 40k podcast.
So it's the home stretch, and we are going to tabletop the Crute. Hopefully not table them.
No. In Soviet Russia, Crute table you. So there's a few offerings by Games Workshop. You got the box Crute. You have a Crute Shaper character. You have Crute Hounds, and you have Crutox. The Crute Hounds and the Crutox are really expensive. There used to be Forge World, but they're not there anymore. The rumor is that they will return, but I don't know when.
I have a feeling that they went the same way as all the Amphilion Project stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Tyranid Capillary Towers, and you had the base complex, and they're gone. The base complex kind of came back as Zone Mortalis instead, but the Capillary Towers are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the Narlock Riders and the various greater Narlocks are gone for now, at least, which is sad.
Yeah.
Then again, the greater Narlock wasn't quite as cool as the giant Squigoth, which is still available, I think.
Also, you were telling me that you have a release that describes a way of making your own Narlocks and stuff.
My own Crute army, at least, yeah.
You said you have a chapter approved.
Yeah, but that's Crute army.
Yeah. Well, you said they were talking about how you can like take certain models and hit bash them to make Narlock.
That is actually correct. So one of the units in here is a tracker unit, and they ride on Narlocks, small Narlocks, so a lot bigger than a Crute Hound. And in the back there was a suggestion that if you want to build these, you can actually take Dark Elf Cold Ones and just take the Rhinosaurus thing that they're riding on and cut off the head and green stuff a Crutox head to it, because that makes it a Narlock. So it's actually quite simple and elegant.
Yeah, and maybe someone else could do something a little more with maybe someone else could take maybe something from the Lizard Man line and maybe add a bigger bird head or something to it. I don't know. You could probably come up with a way of doing this yourself.
And also in this Crute supplement, they have Crute as assault troops, as vultures. And one of the nice things there is that if you don't like the models for the Vespids, and you happen to have a lot of Dark Elf stuff that you don't really use anymore, you could always just use wings from Harpy kits on Crute, and suddenly you have Crute Vespids.
That is awesome.
So that could make your army slightly more of a Crute Tau theme instead of having Crute Vespid Tau theme.
Yeah, no, that's definitely doable. That is a great idea. What else do they have in that chapter approved book? Because it seems interesting.
Well, I really wish that it was still available, because it's not going to make a lot of sense to just talking quickly about this. But there is, because it's a full army with its own HQ and everything, and that also opens up the door for some interesting genetic traits that they have included. So you can actually spend points to buy better leadership by saying, okay, so these Kroot have eaten something that was really courageous and cool, so congratulations, you now have +1 leadership. You can eat chameleonic creatures and give you a 6+ cover save when in open, and you can have initiative boosts, better night vision, which is not really that much which is not really that interesting with the current night vision rules. You also have the Orc Hybrid, which increases their toughness, which is kind of cool, because they aren't exactly tough to begin with. They are kind of frail, and being able to actually purchase toughness as an upgrade, that's pretty tough. Or that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And also, the last one that they talk about is one that I really found interesting, which is called Sixth Sense, and it means that if you get targeted by some kind of template or blast, ordnance blast or something, then you actually treat it as a, then the template only hits on a d6 of a d6 roll of a 4+. So just like flamers who automatically hit everything underneath the template, suddenly you can technically just dodge sort of out of it.
Or maybe they just flamed the wrong spot to begin with or something.
Yeah, or they just jumped out just before the fire actually arrived. In the book, The Savage Scars, they are talking about these Kroot being really lightning fast in reflexes, so it's possible. And of course, the Kroot Mercenary supplement that's in the chapter-approved annual 2004 is written by the same guy that also wrote the Tau Codex for the 4th edition release, and also the trilogy that we also mentioned previously, the Rogue Trader trilogy, Mr. Andy Hoare.
He's the Tau guy. He is
at
Mr.
least at this
Tau.
point, yeah, at this point in his career, he is the Tau guy.
Oh, well, that's really cool. That chapter approved seems really neat and full of a lot of inspiration. Perhaps folks can download it from somewhere and take a look and use it for inspiration. We've come up with a few special rules to add even more life to your Kroot army, and we're gonna start with a special rule called Kroot Advanced Scouts. This is kind of along the same lines as some of the rules from that chapter approved. When a unit with this special rule is placed on the battlefield, whether through normal deployment, reserves, or any other method, the controlling player may choose to change the type of terrain which provides the models in that unit stealth. So normally Kroot only gets stealth in woods. This special rule assumes that they've arrived ahead of time and they've eaten some kind of genetic material which attunes them to that territory.
Which basically gives them the Vespid trait that I was talking about with winged Kroot, that you can actually have stealth cities.
Yep, exactly. So right now, the Kroot units, the Kroot models are all kind of mushed into one unit in the Tau Codex. I thought it would be interesting if you could actually take them as separate units and be a little bit more flexible. You want to talk about the first one, the Kroot Hound pack, Snorri?
Yeah, the Kroot Hound is a fast attack, and you get 5 hounds for 25 points. The unit type is beasts, and they have acute senses, infiltrate, move through cover, stealth for forests, and loyal to Kroot. You can add up to 15 additional hounds at 5 points per model, and all models may be upgraded to advanced scouts for 1 point per model. And loyal to Kroot means that when not within 12 inches of any Kroot, Kroot Shaper, or Krootox Rider, the Kroot Hound Pack must take a leadership check in order to move in the movement phase, run in the shooting phase, or launch an assault in the assault phase.
Right, they're not sure what to do without a Kroot there to tell them what to do. The next unit is the Krootox Brigade. Their battlefield role is heavy support, and they're only 15 points each. Normally, a Krootox is more expensive inside a unit of Kroot, but they're only toughness 3, and they don't really bring as much to the table as, say, an Eldar jet bike or a Space Marine bike or anything like that. It's really the protection of the Kroots that they're standing in that makes them a little pricier inside a unit of crews. So here in the Krutox Brigade, they're only 15 points each. Their unit type doesn't change. That's still infantry. And their unit composition starts off as one Krutox rider, though you can purchase up to 4 additional ones for 15 points a model, and they can be upgraded to advanced scouts for 1 point per model. They get a Kroot armor and their Kroot gun. The Kroot gun, I think if I recall correctly, is like strength 7, AP 4, rapid fire.
It's a much better gun than the regular ones.
Yeah. It's bulky. They're bulky, infiltrate, move through cover, and stealth in forests. These guys, getting these guys as a separate unit gives you a dedicated fire support role inside your Kroot army. Now, the Kroot Carnivore Squad is unchanged. You can just allow yourself to upgrade to advanced scouts for 1 point per model.
Then we have the Kroot Expeditionary Force formation, which is 2 squads of Kroot and 2 Kroot packs. The restrictions are that all units must have the Advanced Scout special rule. Special rules for this formation is that during the first turn of the game, all Kroot from this formation gain the Shrouded special rule instead of the Stealth special rule wherever applicable. Additionally, all Kroot units in this formation enjoy the Ignores Cover special rule for cover saves normally provided by terrain specified by their Advanced Scout special rule. So if you're fighting a city scenario and these guys have the stealth city, then it's not really going to help much to hide in buildings because they're just going to ignore it.
Yes, so I thought that would be a pretty neat little advancement there for if you take this Expeditionary Force formation.
I like it.
Thanks. Next we have the Kroot Reserve Force formation. These are the Kroot that come on after. They're 1 to 2 squads of Kroot and 2 to 4 squads of Krutox brigades. They have no restrictions other than the the units that you're required to take. And the special rules for this one are units in this formation change the weapon profiles of their Kroot guns to salvo 2-3 as long as they have 2 or more models with Kroot guns in the unit. So this goes for both the squads of Kroot and the Krutox brigades themselves. So they march on and they lay down heavy fire against the enemy.
And finally, we have a mission for you.
Yes, this kind of is supposed to be species agnostic, so you don't have to use specifically Kroot for this or specifically Vespid or whatever. You can even, it's designed for you to even bring on maybe even Astra Militarum allies as Demiurge if you want. It's up to you.
So the setup is that the Tau have been hopelessly outnumbered in their battle against a powerful foe which seems to have an endless supply of troops at their disposal. Their only hope is that their allies will come through for them.
Yes. So the armies for this are going to be the Tau versus someone else. So the Tau player is the defender, and half of their points should be tied up in Tau resources without the use of any non-Tau races such as Vespid or Kroot. This half of the Tau force was referred to as the Tau lines. Tau lines may not be deployed using reserves. They're on the field. The other half of their points should be filled with either accounts as force or utilize the Tau alien forces. These units should be referred to as the Tau reinforcements. These units must be deployed using reserves. Note that these two halves do not need to be separate detachments. They simply can be represented by 2 halves of the defender's force and points. So if you just wanted to go with 1 Tau detachment, it's just half of those points would be in Kroot or Vespid. The attacker should be any dangerous foe to the Tau, such as Tyranids or Orcs. They have no deployment restrictions, and it is recommended this force have ample supply of infantry to fulfill the narrative conceit of the mission, such as Imperial Guardsmen, Orc Boys, or Tyranid Termagants.
The deployment is hammer and anvil, and you should place 1 objective in the center of each deployment zone and 1 in the center of the play area. Each player may place 1 additional objective anywhere outside their own deployment zone using normal objective placement rules. The mission special rules are night fighting, reserves, Tau narrative objectives if you want to use those, and Are We Too Late? And Are We Too Late is a special rule we made that says if the Tau reinforcements arrive on turn 3, they may reroll once to hit for the rest of the game. If they arrive on turn 4, they may reroll any 2-hit roll for the rest of the game.
Yeah, this helps balance the fact that half the army is coming in from reserve, which would normally be a little hindering.
Yeah, and also they're kind of desperate as they come onto the table, and it's like the later they are, the more they are. It's like, we don't care about ammo count, we're just shooting crazy amounts of gunfire at everything, just hoping that we will just stem the tide.
I hope our Tau allies won't be mad at us for being so late.
Yep.
The victory conditions for this mission are: the objective in the player's own deployment zone is worth 1 point if held at the end of the game. The objective in the opponent's deployment zone is worth 4 points if held at the end of the game, and all the other objectives are only worth 2 points if held at the end of the game. So that's a total of 11 points. And there are secondary victory conditions in play: Slay the Warlord, Line Breaker's worth 2, and Big Game Hunter's worth 1. If you don't recall, Big Game Hunter is awarded to the player who destroyed the most valuable of all the units which were destroyed during the game. So I hope that mission kind of is a good representation of the kind of mission you would play with your Tau allies, along with your Tau, kind of focusing on them as the protagonist.
Yep. So I think we have talked enough for tonight. Is it time for a break? I think it's time for a break.
Yeah, it's time for a break. Let's do it.
Yep. So we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey mofos, this is James from the 1 Hour a Night Facebook group. I want you to set your brush down and look at your shelf. You know, the one full of unpainted plastic minis. Don't try to pretend like they aren't there, I know they are. Well, how about instead of silently mouthing I'm sorry to them every time you walk by, we get some paint on them. The 1 Hour a Night Facebook group is doing a CAD and a quarter challenge. It's simple. Grab an HQ and 2 troops that you have already assembled but unpainted on the shelf. Take a picture of them all together, post it, and then paint them up by December 1st. Bam, done. Guild assuaged, cosmic forces aligned. 1 Hour a Night is all about hobby support and keeping motivated. That's 1 hour a night. 1 written as a number, hour a night. All one word. See you on Facebook.
Well, that was a nice discussion about the Tau races. I really think that I really do think that the Tau really do kind of represent something similar to the Federation from Star Trek. At least the closest thing we have. I mean, the Federation itself is a little insidious with their diplomacy. It's just the Federation has a tendency to leave people alone if they don't want to join.
Yeah. I feel that if you were to do the Star Trek intro for the Tau, it would be to boldly go where pretty much everyone else has been already.
Yeah. And you know, in Star Trek, it's funny when you see people like you see xenophobic races in Star Trek, and they're always really angry to see the Enterprise. Like, we told you we don't want to be talked to. Leave us alone. And you can kind of imagine this one system in the middle of Federation space that doesn't want to be bothered, and they're just surrounded by everybody involved in the Federation. It must be really annoying to them. Everyone belongs to a club they don't want to belong to.
Yep.
Anyways, that's our show. Hope you enjoyed it. This is a topic that we've been wanting to do for a long time. It's been on our list for a long time, and it's been requested a few times too. So I hope everybody enjoys it. Next fortnight, of course, was going to be the first of 2 or 3 Mechanicum episodes, which I hope everyone's looking forward to, and I hope everyone's reading, at least starting off now with Scutarius, which will be the first one. We'll discuss the novel itself and also the Scutari Codex and how it relates to the fluff.
So, other plans for the next couple of days? You seem to have a note here about some Battlefleet 40k?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get some Battlefleet 40k ships together for the Demiurge, the Kroot, and the Nikasar, so that people can add them to their army, so that people can represent them on their tabletop. Now, I'm not going to have any Tau ready, but that's fine. Well, that'll come in time.
Yep, that's for another show.
Yeah. I was wondering, sorry, what do you think of the idea of doing a Masters of the Forge global campaign? It seems like a natural fit for us. It would be.
It is.
It would be a lot of additional work added to the show. So I think it would have to be kind of after we're done with this. Obviously, after we're done with this Mechanicum month and my October vacation. But I think it's definitely something we should consider, maybe for Christmas time or something.
I think that could be a good idea because Christmas time is usually a time where people can have time for family, do things for themselves, maybe fill some of that family stuffed time with some non-family, like just clearing your head with a couple of games of 40k. And well, if we can give people an excuse to do some narrative stuff, then hey, great. And also, it gives us something to fill the couple of weeks that we won't be producing episodes with something that people can do instead.
That's a good point, because I'm sure we will take a week or two off from recording for the holiday season. So maybe filling that time with some narrative campaign ideas would be a good filler. All right. Well, if folks have ideas for a Masters of the Forge narrative campaign, send us an email to mastersoftheforge@gmail.com, or you could even get a hold of us through Facebook. Just search for Masters of the Forge.
That's right. And keep sending your ideas and wishes to us so that we can steal them and sell them off as our own on our show. In the meantime, please check us out on iTunes and write a review. Give us 5 stars if you feel that we deserve it. We also have the blog at mastersoftheforge.com. That is where you can find all those lovely supplements that we put out. And also you can download our episodes from there if you want to do it that way, and which is, of course, the hard way. And we also do have a Twitter account, so Masters of Forge at Twitter. I think that pretty much covers everything that we do when we're not filling your ears with beautiful music and silly ideas. So I think it's that time again.
To say goodbye.
Yeah. And what is our slogan here at Masters of the Forge, Adam?
Keep playing the game the way you want to.
This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Podod of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission. And we're done.
We're done? That's it?
Yeah. Yep, let's wrap up.
I missed that whole thing.
Yeah, that was so fast we didn't even notice.
Wow, that was a really good episode. Well, no, I guess now I...
Yep.
I mean, what?
So, sorry. Star Trek Attack Wing.
Haha. This September 8... Shoot, I do this every time.
And with that, I think it's time to give you some shout-outs for something, and we'll be back with the topic of tonight's show, or today's show, or whenever you're listening to this.
Thanks. Something. I don't... What?
And tonight's topic... Sorry. And the topic for this show is... As we were mentioned... sorry.
Species. Hey guys, let's wage war on these alien species. difficulty communication. Star Trek Attack Wing.
Bleh, okay, that was kind of repetitive. Sorry. Yeah, the gun that the Westbid... There we go again. Westbid. It's not Westbid, it's Vespid.
Westbid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Unit entry in the Tau Codex. Cow Todex, yes.
There we go.
Sorry about that pause, Jason.
Yeah.
The Trellians are a bitter and deadly blah.
Yeah.
Blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ship species. Do.
Jason is sexy.
Yoshi is cute.
You know what? I'm just gonna look it up real quick.
So, give her. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Seriously, Adam, that is creepy. Okay, let's just stop it.
Hey, Jason, have fun cutting up that outro because it's a disaster. Love you.
I'm so glad I'm going out for a walk right now.
I am really tired. I need to lay down again.
Yeah, you probably should. Okay, sleep well. Oh well, I guess that's it for tonight. Good night
Yeah, it is.
and goodbye and good luck.
Good night, dude.